Delivery drivers of Reddit. What is the weirdest thing you have experienced when delivering a package? I'll start. I never worked as a delivery driver, but I was a shift manager at a sub shop that delivered until 3 AM in college. We used to get calls from the local strip clubs all the time to deliver food to the bouncers strippers. We quickly figured out that the strippers would either not tip or poorly tip a male driver, but they would crazy tip a female driver. So we made sure we sent our one female driver on those runs. She would always split the tip with the driver who had been on deck when the order came up. Often it was like $20, so they each got $10. What is it about strippers not tipping guys? I've known the same thing to happen where I live. I delivered pizzas in my hometown. I live in Westchester, and there are some celebrity residents. Anyway, one day I delivered to a very nice house, but nothing that made me think twice. I rang the doorbell, and who opens the door but Kevin Spacey. He asks me how much and I tell him $39.37. I will remember the price to this day. He then pulls out $2.20 bills from his wallet, looks at them awkwardly, and yells back into the house, "Honey, do you have any singles?" A response from somewhere, "No." Kevin Spacey gave me a 63-cent tip. As a driver for Domino's years ago, a customer asked if I would throw this bag of fish guts in the dumpster on my way out. I looked at him like seriously and said I'd do it for $3. He balked at my offer, and then I reminded him that I'm the pizza delivery guy, not the garbage man. He gave me the $3 and the bag. I disposed of the bag as requested and was $3 closer to being super rich. The best delivery I ever had was to a medical marijuana dispensary in Colorado Springs when I was in school. They'd ordered over $80 of our most random menu items: desserts, appetizers, pastas. No pizza, however. Anyway, I get there expecting a huge party, and it was just two stoned guys and a dog. They were so happy to see me and gave me the biggest tip I ever got. And the mystery machine was parked right outside. It was my first delivery ever. It was to this nice little grey thing that had a big yard surrounded by a fence. I walk up to the gate and see this old grandma type sitting on a bench swing. I ask if she ordered any pizzas. Her head snapped to my direction like a freaking zombie, and she angrily flipped through the magazine. From where I was standing, I could see that all the faces in the magazine had been scribbled out with black marker. I was terrified, but I had pizzas and a fresh delivery job. So I opened the gate, trying to be quiet so the woman wouldn't notice me again. I made it to the front door and knocked. This guy answered and went back inside to get the money. When he got out of the doorway, the only thing I really noticed was that there were probably 9 people sitting in a circle, and the one right in front of me was a black fellow in a wheelchair masturbating. I freaked out for a second until I realized it was a special house. The guy comes back and notices that I was exposed and gave me a decent tip, but the damage had been done. Creepy butt ring grandma crap. That would give me nightmares. I used to deliver Thai food for a while. On a rainy Friday night, I proceeded to make a delivery into a crappy apartment house. 3 floors and like 4 or 5 apartments. I heard loud music coming from the apartment I was supposed to deliver to. I knock. No answer. Wait. I knock harder. A really hot girl answers the door wearing a bra and jeans. "Oh hi. How would you like your tip?" I just stand there dumbfounded. Before I have a chance to say anything, a huge black guy comes walking behind her and takes the food. He proceeds to say, "Know what, N? I'm fittin' for my chicken pad thai right about here." He hands me a stack of $1 bills and says there's a $4 tip in there. Don't do drugs. All the while the girl is standing there with a goofy smile on her face. He shuts the door and locks what sounded like 4 or 5 locks. You better not do drugs. I delivered pizza for a few months when I was in college. It was a trashy little town about 15 minutes from my university. I got a delivery one day to this old house that had been turned into apartments. I go to knock on the door and it is covered in weird signs. Biohazard, no trespassing, caution, etc. The guy answers the door and he is about 50 years old with long, messy, grey hair, wearing only a lab coat, and the only light on in the apartment is a strobe light. Guy: "Who are you?" Me: "I'm here to deliver your food." Guy: "Why should I believe that?" Me: confused: I'm holding it right here." Guy: Fine. Take your money. You should get out of here though. This place will be crawling with feds any minute. I got the frick out of there. Part of me wants to believe that it's this guy's hobby to frick with delivery people and he changes the theme every time. I gotta get this off my chest because it was one of the most horrifying deliveries I've ever made. I'm delivering for Domino's and I get a delivery to this trailer park. It's mostly old lower class people living in this place, so it's nothing to really worry about. I knock on the door and an older gentleman answers. I tell him how much it is and he asks me to come in and set it on the table for him. So I do. But as I go to set it down I notice there are tiny bugs crawling everywhere in the freaking house. Trailer. Before I set the pizza down the dude just goes over to the table and brushes some bugs out of the way so I can put the pizza down. It was like nothing was wrong. I look at the ceiling and walls and there are bugs all over that mother sucker. It blew my freaking mind. That is the most horrifying thing I have ever read. A bunch of years ago I was working at a custom wood window manufacturer. I was responsible for loading, delivering, clearing payment with the company, and loading per company standards, and truck maintenance. So I get to this one house and the first thing I notice is crap all in front of the front door. Random construction crap, all in a messy pile like it just got tossed out. Then I start seeing tools and things fly out of the door. I figure there's a contractor firing a worker on the job, but I didn't really give it any thought because I'm on the clock. As soon as I fill out the logbook and open the door, I realize what's happening. The woman who owns the house is absolutely flipping crap at the contractor. Instantly awkward. I won't go into details, but I heard the entire story before I got the first window to the door. I act as professional as I can, walk around the tools and right into the front door while knocking like a freaking boss. Instantly the woman acknowledges my presence by screaming, "Great, now the freaking windows are here." Freaking great. I'm going to give a slight forewarning. From here out, for me personally, the level of awkwardness rises exponentially every time I walk another window into the house. I kept to myself, but this bee was on a rampage. About 45 minutes goes by. Large house, and I am moving the last window into the main room. Every window is protected from walls and other windows by cardboard packing corners. They are about 8 deep and they are placed immaculately and I am proud. As I'm walking out the door to grab the credit machine I hear stomping down the stairs. I look over and this chick is looking me dead in the eye and has a broom handle in her hands as she's coming down the flight. Instantly I feel threatened and my mind goes through a pretty simple situation check and I realize she can't seriously injure me. As she walks towards me her eyes shift to the windows and she changes paths towards them. I move out of the path. She does a running javelin throw and, amazingly, the glass are all sealed units, puts this broom handle through like 4 windows in a row. I'm already across the room in utter shock witnessing one of the greatest flip outs of my entire life. She then grabs the broom handle and continues to frick up every window she can get to, which at the end of the flip out had a tally of 17 sealed units, with frame damage to about 1/4 of that. With those windows that was about $6.8k damage given that they were not painted and were high quality finished wood. I immediately left and called the company, who told me to call the police immediately and that the owner was on the way with a lawyer on the phone. I left after the owner salesman showed up and continued on with my day, fully satisfied with a pretty epic story to tell. I work at Domino's and had a delivery to a house that was in one of the rich neighborhoods. I pull up to the house, drive down a long butt driveway, and when I finally get to the door, I see an envelope taped to it. There is nothing written on it except Domino's on one side and leave on doorstep on the other. Inside is enough money to cover the pizza and a $10 tip. I look around kind of awkwardly before setting the pizzas on the doormat and putting the money in my pocket. While I'm walking back to my car, I turn back around to look at the house, and lo and behold, the pizzas are no longer on the doormat. I didn't hear a door, and it hadn't been but 4 or 5 seconds since I had turned around. I also noticed as I was getting back in my car that there were cameras all around the perimeter of the house on the walls, painted the same color as the house to blend in. I drove away and not a single frick was given. TLDR. I delivered to James Bond the President Witness Protection Service residence aliens. I love the idea of someone so sophisticated and secretive ordering fricking Domino's. Delivered a stove and refrigerator to a house with about 25 cats and not a litter box in sight. The smell was horrible and the man living there had to be one of the most disgusting looking people I've ever seen. It was the only house that, in the 4 years of working there, we ever told our boss that we refused to ever go there again. I had to deliver and set up a fish tank for a rich dude when I was in school. It was winter, and the house, giant, was down a hill. I slid the delivery truck down the hill and smashed it into his garage. I was crapping bricks. He was like, "Don't worry about it," as I was looking at his smashed garage. Nice. I hope to one day be wealthy enough that I can do that. Oh wait, I'm middle class. That will never happen. But still, good on him. What a GGG. Story from a pizza delivery just the other night. Guy opens the door, and the first thing I notice is the stripper pole in the middle of his living room. There is a woman behind him. Hard to see much of her face as it appeared the mood lighting was set. Then I notice him, a middle-aged man with his perfect eyebrows and makeup on, standing in his blue robe, like Hugh Hefner, with a boner pushing out his boxers. While ignorant or oblivious to his anatomy, he was rather pleasant, though a bit too dazed and smiley. He may have been high. This is suburbia, Illinois, and it's like 8 PM on a Tuesday. I don't get customers like this. I'm likely to get a gun waved in my face 3 times before I see some crap like this again. I worked as a pizza man during my first few years of uni. Edit, around 2003. One delivery does stand out. So I'm in the store taking pizzas out of the oven. We get a call for a $30 plus order, which is a decent size order as our large pizzas were only $5. I load up my car with their food and head over to the address. I'm driving up the street and I can see a bunch of cars parked on either side of the street. I see some Ford Rangers and Camaros, so I'm thinking that it's just some kids throwing a party. I head up to the door, knock, and am greeted by a 30-something female. Odd, maybe the chaperone? Then another one comes along to help with the food. Then a third woman with something draped over her shoulder appears. It's a dong, double-headed, black, floppy. They invite me to step inside. It was winter in Michigan, so I oblige, and am greeted by about 15 women, all in their 30s or 40s, crammed in a living room. I took a picture with a couple of them for shoots and giggles, then went on my way. So it turns out that I went to a sex toy version of a Tupperware party. Those parties are actually quite common in the UK since there's an adult chain of shops called Ann Summers which holds Ann Summers parties. I was a FedEx driver for many years. I don't have too many crazy stories unfortunately, but I sure caught a lot of dudes jerking off at their computers. Knock first, butthole. Since I probably won't get an abundance of delivery people again anytime soon, if I were to walk into a pizza place, order a pizza for delivery, could I be driven home? A friend of mine delivers pizza for Domino's as well and has been gracious enough to share some stories. He's been greeted by many half naked and full naked people, but the one I remember best is that he was delivering pizzas to an apartment complex and this woman who was not the most attractive opened the door and invited him in. She was at least dressed, so he goes in. On her coffee table is the money for him and several sex toys laid out. She sees him looking at the table and says, "See anything you like?" He says yes, the money there will do fine, and left as quickly as he could. I delivered to an Indian guy who answered in silk boxers and baby oil. He tried his hardest to make his gay porno fantasy true. I'm not gay. It was awkward. I also delivered to a super beautiful woman who was wearing almost see-through underwear in front of her family. Her husband was watching the game. He did not give one single frick. I found it hilarious. Finally, I delivered to a 16-year-old stoner who managed to hotbox his whole house. He did not realize he had gotten his 4-year-old little brother higher than anyone I've ever seen in my life. The little boy screamed pizzaraya for a minute straight while he tried to run to the front door. He was so uncoordinated he ran into 3 different things on his way to the door. 4-year-olds act like they're stone tripping all the time anyway. Reposted from a couple years ago. When I was 19, I got a job at a local pizza parlor as a delivery driver. One night I got a delivery to some really shady apartments just out of my delivery area, but I took it anyway. After driving around the complex for about 10 minutes, apartment complexes are a delivery driver's worst nightmare. I finally came upon the correct door and proceeded to knock. At first there was nothing, but after knocking once again I heard a low groan and some stumbling footsteps followed by a loud crash. After waiting for about a minute, the footsteps eventually got closer and the door opened. Standing in the doorway was a lady around 40-45 years old with her face, hands, and t-shirt covered in dried blood. It looked like her nose had been bleeding uncontrollably for a while earlier. She was holding onto the door frame but still swaying uncontrollably as she struggled to stay upright. She stood there seemingly completely oblivious to my existence. I'm the pizza guy, I stammered. She looked down at the pizza and made a grunt of understanding and pulled out her purse. While she was fumbling for cash, I peered into her apartment behind her. There was a washcloth soaked in blood by the sink as well as what looked like a small pile of sea on the table. What really unnerved me though were the children's toys all over the floor. My heart stopped soon after when I heard a baby cry come from one of the bedrooms. She paid me and I left. I called the cops the second I got back to my car. I wasn't a delivery driver, but I drove the prop truck for a movie over the summer which entailed picking up and dropping off various props all throughout NYC and parts of Jersey. One of the main sets of the movie was this mansion in Upper Saddle River, NJ, which was being foreclosed. Anyway, there were cameras installed all over the perimeter of the place and the owners had their own security team watching said cameras. I had to pick some stuff up from the mansion and bring it back to the prop houses. So I went over with my truck, which was a big, 10-11 feet tall, 16 foot long thing, and picked some stuff up. Shortly after leaving I got pulled over by this black mammoth of a truck with blacked out windows and no license plate. It didn't even have the police lights on top of its roof. The lights were built into the windshield and crap. Crazy. Anyway, I got pulled over and was questioned and asked to open the back of the truck and it was terrifying. Especially because all of the people who stepped out of the vehicle were dressed in everyday clothing. And the head guy in charge looked and acted like he fell out of a movie. Nothing bad happened. Everything was fine. But it was terrifying. TLDR. I got pulled over on a movie job by the sire. I had a friend who got robbed by a guy dressed as Darth Vader. Twice. No idea if it was the same person or not. Never deliver pizza in Florida, y'all. I have altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further. My personal favorite was when I delivered a $13 order to an average size house. Handed the guy his pizza and he gave me a $50 bill. As I went to grab change the guy said keep it. I'm a believer of karma and never try to wrong anyone who tips me. I glanced at the bill again to make sure it was a $50 and not a $20 and indeed it was a $50. A $7 tip is amazing so you can imagine how a $37 tip would feel like. I told the man that he gave me $50 and not $20. He responded with I know, and then shut the door. On the other side of the spectrum, I was called into work for the sole purpose of delivering one order of 83XL American Legend pizzas. It was about $1,500 worth of pizza that we dropped to $850. It took 3 whole carloads to deliver the pizza, which was outside of our delivery area, and I helped the people set it up for a huge event. Now as a driver, we usually expect a 10-20% tip no matter the size. Hence I had assumed I'd make at least $75, no less than $50, but I was hoping for over $100. When I handed the lady the receipt for her to sign and put a tip on, she asked if tip was included and I said unfortunately not, so she huddled around with a few of her co-workers for 5 minutes while I stood in the distance politely waiting with my hands behind my back. She came back to me and handed me the receipt which had a $15 tip on it. She asked if it was enough and I followed store policy and said absolutely. Moral of the 2 stories is I've learned to receive anywhere from a 300% tip to a 0% tip, but in the end, it all works out. I delivered 114 inches pizzas and 240 sodas in one trip. I drive a minivan for some band competition with a nice 0% tip. My boss had done the same and discounted their pizzas over 50% too. I was delivering a pizza to a party in a upper class area. Think Benzes and driveways wealthy, not yacht wealth. When I initially took the order over the phone, the lady asked how much she'd have to tip me to strip. I assumed she was joking, so I called her bluff. I said for $100 I'd get down to my boxers. She told me to come straight to the pool in the back when I get there, and she'd have my money waiting. Easy money, yet a little dignity loss. But hey, a uni student delivering pizzas has little use for whatever dignity may be left. So I pull up and walk to the gate, pizzas in hand. I go straight round to the pool, place the pizzas down and reach down to pull my shirt up to the 20-odd 40-year-old women who were clearly expecting a show. Then I get tapped on the back. I turn around, and it's my best mate's ex, a recent, nasty breakup, and her mum. Holding the money excitedly, I grab the cash, put my head down, and make a beeline for my car, with the chorus of disappointed middle-aged women booing at me, and my mate's ex laughing like the Wicked Witch of the West. Or is it East? Haven't watched The Wizard of Oz in some time. The only thing more humiliating than stripping for those women was not stripping for them. Money is money, bro. Regardless if it was my mate's ex, I would have gone down to Boxers for a few extra bucks. I bet with that many people there, some of them would be at some level of intoxication, thus allowing you to pull off the deed without too many repercussions. I delivered pizzas this past summer for a national pizza company, one that is now hated by our trees. On my first closing shift, I had a $115 order I had to deliver at 1 in the morning. They were paying with cash and lived in the bad part of the town next to mine, so I was either about to get pranked or get robbed. Either way, I wasn't too excited. I got to the house and these 4 big Mexican guys were outside. I grabbed some of the pizzas and they led me inside. They were having a rega. People were dancing all over the place. Lights were going crazy. Stuff like that. They tipped me $15 and gave me 2 Bud Lights for after work. I'm 19. While myself and my girlfriend, now fiancée, were living together at our old house, we made a habit of giving odd tips to our local delivery guys. It all started with her making a giant cookie pie. We were waiting for pizza whilst she prepped the dessert, and it turned out that we had way more cookie than we had bargained for. So, because we didn't have any spare cash on us at the time, we just gave the delivery kid a bunch of cookies and our thanks. That was before it got out of hand. We started to make a game of it, a ritual, if you will. Soon, all old crap that we no longer wanted was up for grabs as a tip bonus. Old DVDs, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, various trinkets and doodads that we had laying around. We gave them all to various delivery guys. Note that after the cookie incident, these were all bonus tips on top of the usual cash that we threw their way. We realize that nobody who's carting around people's food is doing so because they are looking for Pokemon figurines. On one occasion, however, we were feeling rather generous. We had just inducted a new laptop computer into the family, and as such my girlfriend's old and only slightly outdated PC was no longer wanted and had to be disposed of. It was a fine enough Toshiba, but she'd been looking to upgrade, and when the hard drive mysteriously failed, it was a good enough excuse to just replace the thing altogether. So we ordered pizza from the local establishment, as we tended to on a near weekly basis at that time, and we presented our delivery guy with the option of either 1. Their usual tip of $10 or 2. The mystery box. Of course they were allured by the magical draw of the mystery box. They took it back to their car and we never got to see him open it, but within was the laptop, Sony hard drive, and about $50 to replace it, along with a few DVDs, CDs and other random things that we had about. It was a really fun experience for us, and I do hope that he viewed it the same way and not like we were just giving him an errand as a tip. TLDR. I gave a delivery guy a laptop. I wish I delivered to you. I would freaking love Pokemon figurines for a tip. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.